Daily Show host Jon Stewart is calling out Jake Tapper over his new book about former President Joe Biden. The comedian is questioning why Tapper didn't report on Biden's mental decline sooner after Tapper told his audience, quote, "You will not believe what we found out."
Don't news people have to tell you what they know when they find it out? Isn't that the difference between news and a secret? Breaking news in a week.
Tapper has been accused by some of being part of a broader media cover-up over President Biden's mental fitness while in office.
I am so sick of all of this Joe Biden consternation. What Joe Biden did or didn't do, what reporters did or didn't do. And now you're still litigating something, a person who's not even in the fucking Oval Office anymore. He's not there. Why aren't you talking about the person who's there now? Who is not, doesn't seem to have so much great mental capacity. And yet Democrats are stuck on Joe Biden? Are you out of your mind? This is why Democrats lose. The answer should be Joe Biden is no longer our president. Donald Trump is our president, and that's who we should be focusing on. Why are we focusing on this? And why are we talking about an old man who has cancer, prostate cancer? Why are you kicking someone when they are down? It's absolutely ridiculous. The history books will show if they believe that Joe Biden was selfish, if they believe Joe Biden should have dropped out. Perhaps he should have. But that is not the question right now. That is in the fucking rearview mirror. What are you doing?
Oh, more than several years. You don't get prostate cancer.
So again, I just want to stop you. So this is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So in this segment from CNN, we're going to watch Jake Tapper do an interview with Aaron. But I'm bringing this clip to share with you and exposing why Jake Tapper wrote this book. He's actually going to tell on himself, and I'll let you know exactly in which part of this segment that he does. I'll kind of stop it there and point it out to you guys, and then I'll let the rest of the interview play out. So let's not waste any time and get into this here.
President Biden struggled at times to either recognize or remember the names of his own staff. It's all according to the new book, Original Sin. One of these instances happened even before Biden was president. Authors Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson reporting, and I quote from their book, during an 8-day grueling bus tour in Iowa in December 2019, Biden gave his aides pause. While doing prep, he struggled to remember the name of longtime aide Mike Donnellan. You know, he said, groping for it. His aides side-eyed one another. Donnellan had worked with Biden since 1981. And that's all the way back in 2019, which is kind of give you pause just thinking about this. But there were more instances, according to their book. In 2022, they write, standing in the outer oval with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Kate Bedingfield, his communications director, he couldn't come up with either of their names, according to one witness. Steve, he said to Sullivan. Wow. Steve, he continued, obviously struggling to recall Jake's name. He turned to Bedingfield. Press, he called her, as he beckoned them into the Oval Office. Sullivan says he doesn't recall this happening, but the book also says Biden didn't appear to recognize Jamie Harrison. Now, that's important in the context of Joe Biden because Biden had supported him to be DNC chair. This reportedly happening at an event in 2023. Biden took Harrison's hand and just kept shaking it without saying anything. And this is all just the newest revelations in a book that everyone is talking about. The Wall Street Journal says it details a conspiracy in plain view. The Washington Post, Original Sin, indicts the cover-up of a steeply declining Joe Biden. And in the New York Times, a damning portrait of an enfeebled Biden protected by his inner circle. Out front now, CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson, the authors of Original Sin, President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again. And it is now formally out today. And it is a real pleasure to have you both here in person to be able to talk about this. Okay, so, I mean, just the examples, the latest ones that I just laid out from your book are stunning. You and Alex spoke to about 200 people for this book. And I know now, thinking about it, and now you're doing interviews about it, what stood out to you or surprised you the most in your reporting?
Well, the first thing is, after we started writing this book after the election, when we were pitching it. And
Boom. There it is. We decided to write this book after the election. Why did they decide to write this book after the election? Right? Because you would think that something major had happened that would cause them to investigate this and do the journalism that they should have did a long time ago. But nothing new happened after the election except the fact that Joe Biden lost, right? They didn't need to prop him up anymore, right? So if they didn't have any new reasoning or justification to do investigative journalism, why did they not do this years ago when everybody was telling them that something was wrong with Joe Biden? It seems like everybody knew something was wrong with Joe Biden except the liberal media, right? So this is how I know that this guy is out here grifting, because even if he waited after the diagnosis was made public, it would make a little bit more sense, right? Now you have more evidence. If you didn't believe anything else, right? Now you have evidence of his illness. You can say, oh, you know what? Let's see if they've been covering up his illness, and let's see if they've been covering up anything else. But they decided to do this investigative journalism after the election, after he lost the election. Why? You didn't learn anything new that would cause you to go do your job. You had the same information that you had years ago. This is how I know this guy is out here grifting. And if Kamala Harris had won, or if Joe Biden had won, and if Joe Biden had stayed in the election, he wouldn't have did this. He wouldn't have did this. But now, since they no longer need to prop up Joe Biden, and they also need to save their credibility, this is the reason that they went and did this. And the other reason that I know that they're grifting here, and this is not any journalism done just out of good faith, is because they stopped where they needed to stop to protect themselves and save their own credibility. And what I mean by that is the rabbit hole goes further than the Democrats were covering for Joe Biden. The rabbit hole is who was running the country. Who was running the country on behalf of Joe Biden, right? That should have been what the premise of the book should have been as well, right? Yeah, we all know something was wrong with Joe Biden. We all know the Democrats was covering. This is nothing new. Nobody's surprised by this. And knowing this, they should have dug deeper and found out and seen who was running the country. Who was the one making decisions for Joe Biden? But they didn't do any of that. They only went as far as they needed to go to save their own credibility, which is just to get enough evidence to say all of these people knew that something was wrong with Joe Biden, but they hid it from us. They hid it from us journalists, so we didn't have enough information to report on that. That's what the purpose of this book was. That's what this was. This was just a grift for him to make money and try to save any credibility that he has. This wasn't done to enlighten anybody with new information. You came out here and just confirmed what everybody knew. So if you were a true journalist, that means you should have did this investigative journalism a long time ago, because you had the same information that you have when Joe Biden lost the election to do the same journalism that you're claiming that you're doing now. This right here proves everything, in my opinion. This has nothing to do with exposing Democrats for the conspiracy. Man, we knew all that. This is done to save face. To save face.
We were hoping that we'd get good stuff, but we didn't know, really. And the fact that we were able to talk to more than 200 people, mostly Democratic insiders, almost all of them after the election, was shocking, because there were just so many of them wanting to unburden themselves, wanting to get this off their chests after keeping this horrible secret for so long. And it's not like all of them knew all of it, right? People knew little pieces of it. And I think that in itself was shocking. But then if I had to just pick one scoop from the book, I think ultimately the moment that I keep thinking about is Senator Bennett of Colorado saying that after he leaves the White House at an immigration event in June 2024, and Biden's having a really rough time,
Yep.
He leaves in things like, no wonder our immigration policy is such a mess. This guy cannot manage the portfolio. And I think that was a real shock to me.
To see what it could affect.
The policy implications of it, yeah.
So
I would just one thing to add is all those examples you did, those are actually a fraction of actually what we had. We actually just had to cut them down because it became repetitive. The number of people that
so
Joe Biden
this is a fraction of what you.
Oh yeah, we handed that
Just to be
book. We
clear.
handed the book in about 20,000 additional words. We had to get it down to 85,000 to meet the production schedule. So we cut
25%. Well,
I mean, what?
I'm
I'm
not
not.
like 75.
But I know what I mean. I'm just saying that's a lot that you
25%.
have. Yeah.
And so many people that had known Joe Biden for so long recounted experiences, especially by the end of 2023, where they would go up to him and then they would see, in their words, sort of just this vacant stare, and they would say hi, and they just, in their heads, they were like, I don't think he remembers me.
Yeah. All right. So, Alex,
Wow, bro.
how people couldn't see this, and you guys talk about that when you say people knew little bits and pieces of it, but your book revisits this, how people, couldn't see it in front of them. And you write about Jill Biden. You write, one person from Biden's orbit asked, I feel anger at Jill. How do you not recognize that the person you live with is in decline? And now this is a question. Do you think she knew?
I think intuitively she knew, and you can tell that by the way that she behaves, right? I mean, you can see it the way, even in the View interview 2 weeks ago, the way that she would jump in, right, and help him with his answers. And that's not new. She'd been doing that increasingly for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know if she necessarily realized what she was doing, but by her actions, she knew that he was not the same and needed someone to help pick up the slack.
So, Jake, the cancer diagnosis is coming 2 days before the book comes out. And I know there are some who think that that was to detract from your book or take away from it. There's those theories out there. In the book, though, you talk about how the Bidens struggled with transparency on health, and specifically with Beau Biden's cancer. So I'll read that excerpt. You write, Beau's cancer treatment also demonstrated the Bidens' capacity for denial and the lengths they would go to avoid transparency about health issues. Beau would remain the sitting Attorney General of Delaware for the entirety of 2014, even as his family secretly flew him all over the country for a variety of experimental treatments. Beau's wife, Hallie, told people she didn't understand why they had to keep his illness a secret. Making it public would have led people to rally around the family, but both Biden and Beau opposed disclosure.
Let me just say, I knew Beau, and that's a huge loss. He's a really good guy, and it's heartbreaking that we lost him as a country. But that said, this is a pattern with this family. They do not tell the truth. They do not disclose when it comes to especially health issues. But beyond that, a person close to the family told us this is internally almost like a family motto. The way they put it is, in the family, it's going to sound crass, it's not my terminology, don't call a fat person fat. It means don't acknowledge ugly truths. And this person close to the family said, this is a family motto in terms of how they live. Don't acknowledge that Beau is dying. Don't acknowledge that Hunter has a serious addiction problem. Don't acknowledge that Joe is deteriorating. And it's part of how they live.
So,
it's part of how Joe Biden ran the country as well. Don't acknowledge the border is open. Don't acknowledge inflation is bad. Don't acknowledge crime is getting out of control. Right? Don't acknowledge that the country is in decline. Yo, these were the wrong people to have in positions of power, it seems like. But that I believe that. I actually believe that the diagnosis was definitely kept a secret, because a lot of doctors have been coming out and saying that there's no way that Joe Biden found out that he had this cancer 100 days ago.
Oh, more than several years. You don't get prostate cancer.
So I just want to stop you. So this is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you are saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency.
Prostate cancer doesn't occur overnight, whether it's aggressive or not. It grows slowly, usually. Maybe it grew slowly and then it turned into this aggressiveness. I don't know when this was diagnosed. I think it's really important to say that we screen people. And even if the official recommendations in the United States are not to routinely screen people over 70, I frankly disagree with that, because the treatments we have are so phenomenal now that we should be screening people over 70, over 80. People are riding bicycles like the former president. He should be screened. Was he screened? I hope he was screened. I would be shocked if he wasn't. And if he was, what did they find? And when did they find it? And did they disclose it? But I don't automatically believe that we're being told the whole story here.
Right. So this reveals that either, in my opinion, that they were either having him go do treatments and the treatments are causing him to have a decline, or they're ignoring the cancer as a whole, and that's also having an effect on him and causing him to decline. But one way or another, one of them has to be true. Right? They're either treating this guy and that is having an effect, or they're ignoring it and it's killing him slowly. But they knew. They 100%, they knew. They knew. Everybody knew.
When people say, Alex, and there was this conspiracy among those close to him, right, that they were going to prop him up and get him through this election. I mean, is that a word that you think is fair to use?
I think on the back cover, we say, well, let the facts speak for themselves. And the truth is that while some of these things may have begun innocently enough, just trying to make your principal look good and realizing that there are some things he's not as good at anymore. But by the time you get to late 2023 especially, it's clear that he may not only that he is definitely, in the words of many senior administration officials, not up to this job for 4 more years, but he may not even be up to that job now. And I think that's where you get to a point where you're not helping your principal and you sort of are losing sight of the bigger, you're part of something bigger than just helping Joe Biden.
All right, so it's an incredibly reported book. You have, and I don't know if you expected this, maybe you did a little bit, but maybe not to the extreme that it has occurred. You have come, I see the look on your face, you know where I'm going. You have come under withering criticism.
I'm not actually withering, but yes.
You are not withering, but the criticism itself is attempting to wither you.
The criticism intends to wither, yes.
So President Biden's granddaughter, Naomi, she kind of, I think this summarizes a bit. She says the book relies on an unnamed anonymous sources pushing a self-serving false narrative that absolves them of any responsibility for our current national nightmare. There are real stories to be told. One day they will be. I suspect history will reward the truth. There's some saying you're doing this to make money. Others saying... I hope
history respects the truth. I hope so.
But I want to give you a chance, because you're both Washington insiders in the sense you live there, you know it. And there are people who say, come on, Jake Tapper, you had to have known. What do you say to them?
I say that I knew what we all knew, which was I saw him deteriorating in front of the cameras, like in the stuff that was public. But I didn't know anything more than that. I knew that he was okay in the interview I did in 2020, and old, but still with it in the interview I did in 2022. But no, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't know more.
Which is the same impression, by the way, I had in June 2024 with him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
old,
consistent.
but okay. But I didn't know about all these horrible moments. The reason why the debate was so shocking is because that was a president who is non-functioning. Not a president who had a gaffe, not a president who tripped on his stairs, a president who is non-functioning and was basically non-functioning for 90 minutes to different degrees.
But Jake, you should have been smart enough to know that it just doesn't happen all of the sudden. He deteriorated, right? He didn't just become non-coherent out of nowhere just on the day of the debate. These people are, how is it that everybody, not just conservative media, but the American people as well, saw that Joe Biden, something was wrong with Joe Biden. People were having conversations. People like the ladies on The View were having conversations of voting for Joe Biden even if he was a corpse. Why would you need to have conversations like that if somebody wasn't literally a walking corpse? Why? Because everybody saw that something was wrong with him except the liberal media who was covering for Joe Biden. Nobody's going to buy this BS that y'all did not know. No, you knew. You 100% knew, or you decided to ignore it. It's one or two things. These people were just too stupid to realize what's going on, right? They could not understand what they were looking at right in front of their faces, meaning that this job is not for them, right? These people's discernment and critical thinking skills are zero. Or you knew and you ignored it on purpose and you lied to us deliberately to our faces. That's it. That's the only two explanations that I'm willing to accept.
So I think that is why it's so shocking. And I think the reason why there's such interest in this book is because people want to know what really happened. As for Naomi, we know and we report in the book that the Biden family is very close and they stick together. And I don't begrudge her standing up for her dad and her grandfather. No. But I will say we stand by our book. And we do hope that history does reward the truth. And I hope that there will be, then you get the sequel with the other 25%. Okay. All right. Thank you both. And congratulations on incredible work and Thanks, all Aaron. That it took to do this. All right. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, we'll just stop right there. So there you have it. Once again, they knew this. They had all of the information that they had as soon as the election was over. The same information that they had to be able to do the journalism that they're doing right now. Right? They should have did this years ago. But all of a sudden, they decided to do this now. Once again, just to help themselves. Make money. Save face, clean up any credibility that they lost. That's really what this is. That's the only motive that I see here, especially from CNN and Jake Tapper. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your opinions are down below. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Hit the like button, guys. It really helps the channel out. And of course, if you're brand new, consider hitting subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.